early 1990s, after I was studying scriptwriting at the Australian Film and TV School, I was fortunate enough to be offered a position as an intern in Warner Brothers in Los Angeles. So I flew all the way from Australia, Sydney, and I stayed in the cheapest room available in a Ramada Inn in Burbank, near the studio. Now, I specifically chose that motel, even though it was crummy, because they offered a driver and a car who could take you places. Now, I couldn't then, and I still can't, drive on the side of the road that America does without suffering a panic attack. The Latino driver, well, he spoke no English, of course, but once I worked out you had to tip people here in the USA, well, we managed to communicate somehow, and he got to take me where I needed to go. The shows that were there at Warner Brothers were Murphy Brown and Designing Women. And the experience was, as you might imagine, incredible. My greatest lesson was that when you're surrounded by brilliant people, listen much more than you speak, in case they figure out that you're hopeless. While I was there in LA, I was advised to attend master classes that were then being offered by Danny Simon. Now, Danny Simon was Neil Simon's older brother. He was famous as the man who had taught his younger brother Neil and Woody Allen and Mel Brooks and Carl Reiner and lots of people how to write funny on the 1950s Sid Caesar show. I enrolled in Danny's classes, and a couple of evenings a week after my day at Warner Brothers, the Spanish-speaking driver, he'd take me to Sherman Oaks in the San Fernando Valley and navigate us to the community room of a gated complex where Danny taught his craft. I was a bright-eyed and bushy-tailed kid from Australia, and he was recovering from splitting up with his girlfriend for the third time. The thing about Danny Simon, as I subsequently discovered, is that he couldn't stand being alone. He had a mortal fear of solitude, which is particularly unhelpful when you're a writer. I believe that was his Achilles heel, and one reason he couldn't create brilliant plays or scripts like his brother, Neil. Danny, he certainly had the genius in him to do it, well, that's for sure. Anyway, I was stranded, unable to drive. I was all by myself in LA, and Danny couldn't bear being alone. And somehow, Danny took a liking to me. Though we weren't quite the odd couple, which is based on Danny's experiences after his first divorce, but it was written by his brother Neil, we were somewhat an unlikely match. Still, after classes, I found myself being taken by Danny to a diner where we would eat hamburgers, and he would refuse my offers of trying to pay for mine. Now, let me tell you, these meals were the most hilarious I've ever had the pleasure to eat at. As well as being a superb teacher, Danny Simon was simply a man who would have you laughing until you relinquished bladder control. Once I asked Danny what he had taught his brother Neil and Mel and Woody and all of them that had made them such magical comedy writers, and he told me, confidence. I taught them confidence. His answer, well, it blew me away then, and it still does today. You see, what he said was both amazingly generous in spirit and telling. In those days, as a brand new writer, I knew I had to learn confidence big time. And I'll always be grateful to Danny Simon for identifying the very trait I needed to find and setting me on the right path. Danny helped bestow to others, including the comedic luminaries of the last century, the confidence to be funny. I thank him for his largesse at a pivotal point in my life.